I came up with, let's say, 650, you came up with 655. The artificial intelligence agent in 5 minutes produced 652.50.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Red Banner Team podcast. My name is PeterBradrick. I'm here with my CFO and one of my best friends, Brandon Fons. We're going to talk today about what's happening in the technological world and how that relates to our investments and houses.
Absolutely.
Brandon, what are we talking about?
A thing that comes up probably twice a day at minimum, right? In every single sphere, in every single industry is, what's artificial intelligence doing in our workforce? How is it changing it? What's our fears? What's our concern? Things that we combat with artificial intelligence, the benefits and the drawbacks. It's a really interesting question that keeps coming up, and really what's going on is that it's revolutionizing industries. In some ways good, in some ways with a lot of fear behind it. What's that mean for us? And when we look about it in the real estate world, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah,
we're not too sure exactly where it fits in. Kind of like something you and I were talking about earlier, whereas we have more questions than answers.
Yeah,
I guess if we have anything, it's what are these questions? And some of the questions that I have is, what's it going to change for my role in this industry? What's it going to change for your role in this industry? And I think, as it pertains to my role, it's going to have a significant more effect. Analytical side,
sure.
Data, information, reasoning, things like that.
AI replacing all the smart guys.
Yeah. With not so much more intelligent and intellectual backing on that. On your side, maybe not so much. Your side's a little bit more the interactive approach. But you never know. You never know.
You never know.
We apply it in our day, as of recently, on a regular basis. You go back 6 months, kind of here and there, dabbling in it a little bit, but it's rapidly approaching something where it's replacing a lot of our normal duties that would normally take like a significant amount of time throughout the day, and now it's just instantaneous information results and test runs that we've even done just recently.
It's like, I'm probably the least qualified person to talk in an authoritative way about what AI is, but the question is, how is it and how is it going to affect homeownership? How's it going to affect investment in a broader sense?
Yep.
And how's it going to affect our colleagues in an entire industry around both building houses, selling houses, maintaining houses, all those things. I think probably one of the biggest conclusions that, and we've talked about this a fair bit, at the end of the day, what AI is going to replace is like an infinite leap in computing, in systemization, in processes, in efficiency, in replacing a lot of positions. I think, first of all, from the real estate industry side, we are so ripe for disruption. I hear a lot of fear among people like us that sell houses for a living. Oh my gosh, the industry's going to get shaken up. Yeah, absolutely, and it should. It's a very inefficient system with as far as technological advancements have happened.
A lot of archaic methodologies.
Oh, it's so archaic. Yeah. The fact that it takes 30 days for somebody to identify a house and then close on a house, I still think that's a holdover from the 80s and the 90s. I don't think there's any reason for that. The fact that there's so many different people involved working on the process, a lot of that, it's just ripe for disruption. It's ripe for efficiency being brought in. It's ripe for, costing buyers and sellers a lot less money to do exactly the same thing that they're already doing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I ask myself, on a regular basis, what does it mean for buyers? What does it mean for sellers? What does it mean for professionals? Right? And a lot of the interactions that we have, buyers and sellers kind of step in and they interact with you on a professional level and the engagement level, and then they go off and they do that, and then behind the scenes there's a lot of activity behind the scenes that occurs, right? There's a lot of clerical duties. There's just a lot of systemization and approaches to how we have to actually get that thing from the starting line to the finish line. Artificial intelligence is definitely going to step in and fill in a lot of that, those redundancies, those monotonous tasks that have to be done over and over, and it's going to do it significantly faster. One of the things that we've experienced just recently is as it pertains to comparative market analysis, right?
Yeah.
So CMA, for those that don't know, comparative market analysis, you use a sales approach, right? Like you'll analyze various different listings that are active, listings that have been sold, and you try and develop a pricing system as to what somebody should list a house for, right?
One of the most difficult and sophisticated parts of our job.
Yeah. CMAs, yeah. So we have this system where we come at it from a few different angles. Your sales approach, right? You do a listing walkthrough where you actually view the property, right? Does it smell like cat pee?
Right.
Okay. Is the paint fresh? Like, is it this or is it that? The romance aspect of the property that can't really be quantified. And I do it on a more analytical side. Here's my history, here's my data, here's my trends, listing inventory, things like that. But here's what was really remarkable. So you have a more artistic approach to a comparative market analysis, which is extremely beneficial to have the art that's in the data. I have a more analytical approach. And we recently did a CMA on a property. We came up with two different pricings, which we commonly do. What do you think? What do I think? 1, 2, 3, go. And then, we spit out that answer. Well, you and I came within $5,000 of each other on, let's say it was 650,000. I can't recall what it was, but we plugged it into an AI agent and asked it to produce a comparative market analysis for us. When we do CMAs, not including the listing walkthrough, how much time? Like 2.5, 3 hours into producing a price. I came up with, let's say, 650. You came up with 655. The artificial intelligence agent in 5 minutes produced 652.50. It literally split our analysis right in the middle. And all we did was tell it to give me a list price. If we listed this on this date, what do you think we should list it for? And that was a result. So we essentially gain 5 hours using this tool.
If it's accurate, which it's only becoming more and more accurate.
Seems to be.
Yeah.
Now, artificial intelligence, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, like we said, we have a lot of questions about this. It can't smell cat pee, right? So there's still the artistic approach to this, which is why I feel like people in your position are going to be a lot more, you're going to be a lot more safeguarded by that, right? So the art and the emotion.
I'm just going to say that I don't want to be safeguarded. I think the whole industry needs to level up. And we're in this business to, I can look myself in the mirror and say, I've been doing this for 11 years. We've made our clients more money while getting paid. Somebody pays us 3% commission. If somebody pays us 3% commission, I believe absolutely, in pretty much every case, they made an excellent financial decision and they made more money as a result of our help. The market is going to tighten with substantial changes being ushered in through AI. One of which is, I think, with AI is the ability for fast computing and information processing, but also mass fraud, and AI merging with the blockchain to systematize the sales process, the appraisal process, the underwriting process, the title and escrow process, even the advertising process. There's so much change that we haven't even seen the first glimmer. Well, we've seen glimmers of, but there's a lot of changes. The big questions that I really care about is less about how are real estate agents and how are real estate businesses going to stay in business. The real question is, how do homeowners and people potentially thinking about investing in their first home navigate these questions? How do we help through potentially staring down the barrel of some really significant changes happening in the next decade? How do we counsel people? How do we encourage people to think about these things? And a few things that I think about are, A, the sales process is going to become more efficient and more cost effective for both buyers and sellers over the next decade. It just is. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And it scares the crap out of people in the real estate industry, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it will only make people that do our job be better. I think a big part of our job is helping people stop looking at their home as just a place to be and as an expense, but reframing that as this is one of your most significant investments. How do you make sure that it is maximized? We've got a few other elements that are being ushered in with AI computing, and that is on the investment side. It's not just affecting the real estate industry. Obviously, the most significant that we're seeing it affect is Wall Street investing, big business, financial analysis, and like the wealth gap. We've seen a massive increase in the wealth gap just since 2020. I don't think we've even begun to see what that's going to look like, and there's more than we can even wrap our heads around in a podcast. But I'm looking at everything from the wealth gap increasing to the point that if there isn't legislation that basically prohibits BlackRock and massive big money institutions buying up real estate all across the country, like is incrementally happening. And in the same way that the Industrial Revolution put small businesses out of business en masse, in the same way that the last many decades, and even through the last 5 years since COVID, we've seen big businesses, big box stores like Lowe's and Home Depot put all the little small hardware stores out of business. That coming to home ownership as big, massive, big money institutions start to buy up homes and turn homes into a commodity, which has been basically kind of the backbone of American identity, which is like this American dream concept of you get to have the independence of owning your own home. I think that through all the different influences that AI is ushering in, not the least of which is the ability for big computing with massive billion-dollar funds getting so much money that they have to put their money somewhere else, and the most ripe opportunity for that is buying up the American homes. I think that some real thoughtful introspection in wisely investing in real estate now, holding real estate and not recklessly. Like I see a lot of people turn over homes more often than is healthy, and we talk to our clients about this all the time. It doesn't help us make more money, but we're not in the business of just making money. We're in the business of actually delivering a fiduciary responsibility to our clients and
like
giving them
2.5, 3 year turnarounds.
Where you're literally flushing the equity that you have the opportunity. The people that bought houses in the 90s and watch their equity 10x are seeing massive gains, and people that buy and sell every 4 to 5 years, every time their financial situation gets better, they're flushing all of that equity out through the home buying and selling process. And I think that the buy and hold long-term investment strategy is going to end up being like the thing that separates people that no longer can afford to own a home and the people that have been very much more cautious or stable maybe in wisely investing and then just freaking camping, staying put, and keeping their money while potentially 10, 20 years from now, it becomes very, very difficult for the average American to buy into a real estate market that they've been priced out of. I think not understanding the inner workings of how AI works, but watching the implications of how AI is affecting our culture, I think that's the big takeaway. And if I'm counseling my children or my nieces and nephews and our clients, I would say, honestly, do what my wife's parents did back in the early 90s. They bought a waterfront home in Manette that was what a lot of people would have said way outside of their budget. Just work at a restaurant, don't make very much money, and they saved and scrimped and pinched their pennies. They didn't go on lavish vacations, and now they own a piece of real estate that is like, wow, how in the world did you afford that? Here's how you afforded that. Back when everybody said, well, that's way outside of your budget, they invested wisely, and then they just stayed put, and they kept that investment. And now it's hopefully going to be a legacy property for the family for generations. And I would predict that the people that make a savvy investment plan around their real estate like that, where they say, you know what, we're actually going to view this as a lifetime investment as opposed to this kind of turn and burn mentality of, and it scares me to say this, but I actually believe it. It scares me to say this because people will take it out of context and do the wrong thing with it. But if you can afford to scrimp and save and overinvest now, and then just stay put for the next 2 generations, those are going to be the real estate decisions that I think sidestep everything that's coming down the pike.
I agree with that. I have a little bit of pushback on, maybe not necessarily, but an opposing viewpoint at least, as far as the institutional juggernauts buying up properties. I agree with that. I don't think that can be disputed. We've seen that in the figures, we've seen that in the numbers, we've seen their portfolios, we know what they look like. However, artificial intelligence as it pertains to the buyer and seller, I think on the seller side, it's going to assist in the pricing structure of the homes on the market correctly and accurately. On the buyer side, and I'm not going to get too much into robotics, but what we do know about like engineering and schematics, its ability to expedite the process to produce really good schematics and engineering templates and blueprints. It can do it incredibly fast. And like it would cut down the costs on our side, it could actually cut down the cost on the construction of homes prices as well, which could bring down the cost for the buyers. I don't know that for sure, but if you also institute robotics into that exact same system, now you're further bringing down those costs as well, because now you're actually doing it rather than in wages, you're doing it in machinery.
Bro, I like picture this. People go to IKEA, buy a box, they spend 3 hours at home putting it together, and it's dramatically cheaper than anything else they could buy elsewhere. Envision a scenario where you go in, you custom design a house, and a manufacturing plant in the big industrial city nearest you snaps together every single wall, interior wall, exterior wall, roofing system, and you get 7 18-wheelers that show up, and you have a 3,000 square foot house, and all the walls get snapped together, the plumbing gets plugged together, and it's like with robotics and computing replacing the way that we do things, absolutely, it will utterly comprehensively revolutionize the way the homes are built.
Yeah, you and I, we're subject to 16-hour days. Like that's the max at which we can work. I mean, 17 or 18 if we really got to pull it super far. But robotics and artificial intelligence in 5 to 10 years, being able to work around the clock and erect an entire building in like 6 weeks, you know, I mean, who knows what that means for the pricing systems of houses when you actually decrease the cost that it takes to build them. So I don't necessarily know if that's the direction to take on the buy side because of like your mental projection into what this means for the snatching up of houses, which we know is the case, could be offset by artificial intelligence decreasing the costs in the actual construction process, like it would decrease the cost for us on the agent side into the purchase of the house. To be determined.
Yeah, there's complex financial theories that go into a lot of that. I think that the decrease in the cost will be gobbled up by, if there isn't like actual criminal implications, just like insider trading, like if big money, and there's absolutely nothing on the horizon that would suggest that there will ever be any speed bumps put in place to prevent big money from owning 70% of real estate. If there is, that would change things. At the moment, there's not. So I think any decrease will be decrease in housing, new build housing costs will end up being absorbed, fast forwarding 10, 20 years, will end up being absorbed inside of a huge big business ecosystem where those new housing developments are being built and owned by large corporations, not sold to the average consumer, because a company BlackRock size is able and willing to pay more than any average consumer. Like, we have not seen prices drop in a longer period of time than ever before in the last 100 years of recorded American history. And it's hard to explain outside of an influx of non-average middle-class American money keeping the real estate industry as high
like
as
a
it
market
is.
manipulation, it feels like.
It feels like that. Yeah. In conclusion, I think a few things rise above all the uncertainty. Real people really working hard, staying light on their feet, and not being... I grew up with my dad saying all the time, hey, if the railroad industry had seen itself as transportation, it would be the biggest business in the entire country. But they saw themselves as the railroad and ended up becoming highly, highly, highly segmented into this tiny little part of the commodities industry. If they had seen themselves as transportation, the railroad industry, that was like one of the largest money businesses in America at the time, would have become the airplane industry, it would have become the automotive industry, but they saw themselves in a very narrow sector. And I think if someone that's a real estate professional that's shaking in their boots as industry disruption comes down the pike, if you are absolutely excellent at what you do, there will always be an opportunity to excel applying hard work ethic, I believe. Excellent work ethic, excellent integrity, and it just is going to look different. And then on the homeownership side, at the end of the day, if you're being wise with your homeownership investment, and I would add in what I said earlier, part of that wisdom, I think, could mean right now potentially overbuying. And I know that sounds like a very self-serving thing, but I'm literally saying stop selling your houses, hang on to real estate. But if you're investing, overbuy now and then just pay it down. Do what my wife did when she invested in her first house and make double payments for as long as you possibly can, to get into a position where, as inflation and real estate markets continue to trend up, you've outmaneuvered into a position where your work ethic, your wise allocation of savings, and putting it into a stable asset like real estate ends up paying off, and that individual will be in the very small percentage in 20 years, 40 years in a much more stable position with all the disruption that's happening.
Stick with the tried and true.
Yeah.
The methods that have gone the test of time.
Yeah.
They're not going to go anywhere. No. I can see it.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it is.